Imagine yourself at the bottom of a mountain looking up, knowing I got to get up there, and when I get there, I got to go raid a village. We got opened up on with an avalanche of gunfire. That's the reality that we were in. It was an avalanche of gunfire. I got hit in the right leg, fell forward, and I rolled over. I never will forget, seeing my leg just hanging by an inch of flesh, just, at a 45 degree, and blood just going out everywhere. It was the most painful thing that I've ever felt in my life. And that's the point when I thought I might not get out of there. And that's when I blacked out. And when I blacked out, it's when I actually died a couple times. I think it was 2 or 3 times they said that I flatlined and they had to bring me back. And I wake up in Bagram, and I look down and I only have one leg.
On April 6, 2008, 12 Green Berets and a small group of Afghan commandos flew into the remote area of Shock Valley. Their mission was to take out a notorious insurgent leader. After climbing up a treacherous mountainside to a village that rested on a hill at almost 10,000 feet, the group was met with enemy fire. Largely outnumbered and injured, the Green Berets had to fight nearly 7 hours against 200 insurgents. Among that group was John Wayne Walding. During battle, Walding was shot in his right leg. Knowing that he had to survive, he tied his severed leg to his thigh by his bootstrap and continued fighting. Today, we revisit that fateful day and talk about how a small-town kid became the first amputee to graduate from Special Forces Sniper School and went on to compete in the Boston Marathon and the New York Marathon. More than 150 insurgents were killed in a fight by 12 American Green Berets and a small group of Afghan commandos. Today, on America's Finest, we present an American hero, John Wayne Walding. Born on the 4th of July and a true American patriot that continues to prove that adversity causes some men to break and others to break records. Just before you're the man that's sitting before me today, who were you? What were you like growing up?
Well, I always give I'm just a redneck from Groesbeck as kind of a joke, but that is the reality of where I grew up in a small town in Groesbeck, Texas, where you got 3,500 people, but a $10 million football field,
Of course, Texas.
Yeah, amen, right? I was raised by my grandparents. My parents went to jail when I was young, and so from a very young age, I had my grandparents as my real, they actually adopted me after a certain amount of time, and my brother. But I was raised by them, and we had a little lake house, and grew up, playing football and doing what normal Texans do, hauling hay and doing all that stuff that sucks in the summer. And I never will forget my 16th birthday. I hauled over 800 square bales of hay, which is the July 4th. Remember, John Wayne born on 4th of July, so I remember. I never will remember or never will forget that day, but no, that's kind of where it is. To be quite honest with you, as a name John Wayne, Green Beret, born on 4th of July,
it's kind of crazy. It doesn't seem real.
It briefs well for sure, but I say that we weren't a big military family. There's not a long lineage of military in our family. My granddad was an oil man. He grew up, graduated the 8th grade. Then became a roughneck at 14, and worked roughnecks his whole life, or drilling rigs his whole life, and worked his butt off to become the boss of the rig. Was a consultant. Really did work his butt off, and obviously had my dad, and my dad just said it like this: had a cool birthday, needed a cool name. Yeah, it was pretty funny, for a family that really wasn't staunched and ingrained in the military, to have an all-American son, is pretty funny.
So you grew up in Groesbeck, had the cool name, had the cool birthday. You had a different upbringing than most kids, but you enlisted. So was there a defining point or maybe a turning point that pushed you to enlist, especially if you didn't have a military background?
To be quite honest, you want real talk?
Yeah.
Real talk, I turned 20 and I was like, man, I need a real job.
Okay, so no college.
Yeah, no. I grew up, graduated, and worked in Groesbeck as at an electrician company, and again, I turned 20. I was like, man, I need a real job. And my buddy, he was in the military. He was in the Army. And he kind of told me his story. His name's Clayton. And said, all right, let me try that. And if you ever know me, I'm a real spontaneous guy. You know, whenever I get my mindset, I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it, right? And so I was talking to Clayton, and he said, well, this is what I do, this, and that. I'm like, well, I can do that. So
Sounds
I went,
fun.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, I can do
Let's
that.
go to war.
And I went to the recruiter, and he's like, hey, you want to shoot missiles? I'm like, hell yeah, you don't. You know, and the recruiter got me, man, and I was a Patriot missile operator, you know, shooting missiles. And I went in July 4th, my birthday. August, I was in basic training. So, you know, and I was actually in basic training during September 11th. And so I went right before the towers fell.
How was that?
That was a very sobering day and a very, life-changing, obviously, for the entire country. But, you know, to put it lightly, you know, all of the drill instructors that are drill sergeants at the time were like, we're going to war, men, right? And it really collectively changed our focus, you know, as a country, as a military, you know, just as civilians. You know, before I joined the military, I'm like, well, you know, they'll give you college money. I can do this. It'd be a great learning experience. I get to serve my country. It's a noble thing, this, and that. Well, now we're at war. And that's when the focus changed. Like, I don't care about going to college. I care about, you know, paying back the guys that came and, you know, pooped on our doorstep, right? I want to pay them back. And so that's whenever, you know, we changed our focus. And I did the initial invasion of Iraq in 2003. And it was the first time me really ever leaving definitely ever leaving the country, but ever leaving Texas. You know, I joined the military to see the world. Well, I went to basic in Oklahoma, and I was stationed at Fort Bliss, Texas, in El Paso. You know, I'm like, well, that didn't work at all, did it? But I find myself going over to Iraq, and you know, that's when it puts things in perspective of just how truly lucky Americans are.
I can imagine.
You know, and just how great of a country we have, and you know, there's difference of people, difference in culture, difference in every single thing, and it made you love this country.
Made you appreciate it.
Yeah, you know, when people tell me, you know, I think everybody should have to join the military, I disagree. I think everybody should get kicked out of the country for 6 months. But again, being September 11th absolutely changed my mindset from, you know, a soldier to being a warrior. And how do we do that best? And the best way I knew to do that is be a Green Beret. You know, you don't become a Green Beret because you like it. You do it because you love it. I promise you, there's going to be a time in the 2 years it takes to be a Green Beret that they're going to make you second guess. Man, why am I doing all that? Right?
Is it worth it?
Is this worth it? Right. And so, you know, they find that out. You know, to kind of give the story on that, you know, you can't just raise your hand and say, I want to be a Green Beret. You go to a selection process. It's called SFAS, Special Forces Assessment and Selection. You know, my little dig at the SEALs, you know, they got SEALs have Hell Week. Well, we have Hell Month.
Yeah.
You know, it's 25 days of getting your butt kicked, you know, and then whoever is standing at the end of those 25 days, the cadre pick, okay, you get to go try to be a Green Beret.
So you don't even make it, possibly.
Right. Yeah, you can be standing there.
Wow.
It's called a 30-day non-select.
Oh.
You know, and so kind of put it in even to more perspective. About 400 people started whenever my selection class. You know, around 100 finished. Half of that got selected.
Wow.
And out of that, the you know, 40 to 50 people that got selected, I'd probably say about half of those to 25%, you know, actually donned the Green Beret after 2 years. Wow. You know, after a year and a half, or two, depending on what your pipeline was. But, you know, again, it was tough. You know, selection was one of the craziest. It was the most. How do I put this? It was a course that I went to where that I learned more about myself than any other course I've ever been to. Why? Because it sucked. It sucked bad. It sucked real bad. You know, you can do it though. You know, they never yell at you.
Really?
That was, you know, the whole movies you see, get up, maggot, do this. Well, you know, they never yell at you, and they never tell you how good you're doing. They never tell you how bad you're doing. Right?
Oh man, that's like a mental battle.
Mentally, you know, who are they to motivate you to become a Green Beret?
Exactly.
You know, who are they to motivate you to want to be in Special Forces? And it was so awesome. You know, you get up to do this event, And if you'd have the instructor, he said, "Candidate, you are to run along a designated route until told to quit. Do you have any questions?"
No, sir.
Nope. Begin. And you don't know if that route was 2 miles or 20.
Wow.
And then it could literally be that long of a difference in between the two distances. And so just that on itself, there's an obstacle course that you do. It's called the Nasty Nick. And if you fail to do it twice, they give you a red card and you go to the next one. And fortunately I made all of the obstacles, but I never will forget doing one of the obstacles and seeing one of the guys fall. The guy didn't yell at him. He didn't say, "Get up that rope," right? He said, "Candidate, you failed to negotiate this obstacle. Are you refusing to train?"
Oh, wow.
He's trying his butt off. He's trying as hard as he can.
But you're refusing to train.
Are you refusing to train? He's like, "What?" He's like, and then you fail again. "Candidate, you failed to negotiate this obstacle. You're going to receive this. Go to the next one." And
So I take it you didn't fall.
I didn't fall. No, absolutely.
Good.
Yeah. I may not be smart, but I'm strong, right? I learned in the Army that there's got two privates, a strong private and a smart private. Mm-hmm. I was the strong one, and so the selection kept going, and whenever you would go through a land nav portion, right? Mm-hmm. The land nav portion, they give you a point on a map. That point could be 6 miles or 60 miles. Who knew, right? And when you get to that point, they wouldn't tell you if it's the right point or not. They'll just write it down like, "All right, here's your next point." And then it was again, you just learn the most about yourself. The difference between good pain and bad pain. The difference between how far you think you can go and how far your body truly can go. There's a thing called Team Week, which the whole time you're doing obstacles and events and these events as a team. You get 15 guys together. You're all wearing a rucksack. So if they tell you got to move these water cans or this telephone pole or this Humvee with one a tire missing or this trailer with a tire missing, you got to do it with a backpack on your rucksack. And it sucked. But it teaches you to work at a team. It teaches you, okay, if I had to, we can move a freaking Humvee 10 miles, with one tire missing. But the most thing it teaches you about is who you are inside. Mm-hmm. My name's John Wayne. Yeah, I'm born on 4th of July. But at the end of the day, I'm just like you are. I'm just a guy that loves my country. I'm just a guy that just will never quit. Mm. That's it. I won't quit. I wasn't the biggest, strongest, and fattest, but I had the best heart. And that's just it. That's what they find. Not only that, are you an a-hole?
Yeah.
Yeah. You find the guys that are big, strong, fast, and physically great people, but when you only have 15 guys,
just pushes you to your limits.
Yeah.
Tests you as a man too.
Bingo.
But
yeah.
It paid off for you.
Absolutely.
12 years,
12,
U.S.
yeah.
Army, and then 7 years, 3rd Special Forces, and then April 6th. And that kind of was a turning point, I feel like, not only in your military career, but also for you as a person.
Yeah, April 6, 2008 it changed my life for the better and the worst. It was the hardest day in my life, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. It really was. So to talk about the battle itself, I was on Special Forces Detachment. So it's called Operational Detachment Alpha, which is it's called an A team. You got SEAL Team 3, 4, 5. Well, we're ODA 3336, and we actually had the first operational Kandak of the Afghani Commandos. So the Afghani Commandos, they were the special forces for Afghanistan, the Afghani National Army. And we lived across the street from them. We trained with them. We fought with them. We literally did do everything with them. And it really did breed rapport between the two countries. And we had some great, great guys. We had a Muhammad Ali. Yeah, it was awesome getting to train a Muhammad Ali.
I can imagine.
Yeah, it was awesome. We had a guy look just like Joe Pesci, a little bearded, guy named, and it was awesome because whenever he'd come to formation, I was like, Joe Pesci, like John Wayne, But they're great guys, and by all means, they are Afghanis, and they're just not. Americans don't really understand the vast differences between not only the Afghani military, but the Afghani people and Americans. And whenever you try to train them, you find out very quickly how uneducated they are. You know, some of them can't read. Some of them can't write. Some can't add. So when you're telling this private in the Afghani army, I want you to take 3 guys, go 30 meters to the left side of that building, get the upper window. You know, that's like doing, you know, the hardest thing in the world. Oh, by the way, we don't speak the same language. You know, so the differences really is vast between us and them. And the Afghan, we actually had math class. You
really?
know, yeah, because we were teaching land nav and learn how to use GPS. So kind of give it back, right? People that are that uneducated, now you're giving them with night vision. Now you're outfitting them with lasers that you can shoot with. Now you're outfitting them with, you know, GPS and all this stuff. I mean, it's like Star Wars.
I was about to say,
you know,
it doesn't even seem real.
Bingo. You know, they don't know the concept about turn this off because batteries run out, right? They don't know the concept about if you don't have this setting on, you can't see. And so we would have to have math class. We'd have to have these classes of teaching left and right and how to do up and down. But they got it. They got that we were there to help them. You know, there was
and that's what is important, obviously.
No, absolutely. Yeah, to have that rapport with them and to have that mutual respect. You know, we being Green Berets earned their trust to the extent, you know, toward the end of our deployment in 2000 into 2008, 2007 into 2008, they would want to go in the house first. You know, we're barrel-chested freedom fighters, right? We want to go in there and do our job. You know, they get to the point they say, "Hey, well, let us go first," because that's the most dangerous part, right? And they realize that we're leaving our families, and they're leaving our wives and families to do this, and they respected that. So yeah, you know, no, this is a long answer, but the guy that we were going to get, Haji Ghafoor, he was basically part of the HIG. And I'll let y'all Google what HIG means. It's 3 words that I can't pronounce, but you know, they're Islamic radicalists. They would go into a gem mine. Afghanistan's real big in gems, stars, sapphire, rubies, so you know, things like that. And he would go into that gem and say, "I'm in charge," and take the money from that to fund the HIG. And he lived up in this, you know, mountain side of the Shak Valley in the Nuristan province of Afghanistan, up 10,000 feet. There's no roads in and out of there. There's no streets in and out of there. So there's not a lot of intelligence in and out of there. And you know, the most intelligent, you know, that's why he lived there, right?
Exactly. It's desolate.
Bingo. And we knew he was there. We tried to get him 2 times before, but either whenever we'd execute the mission, we get the intel that he left the objective, or, you know, cloud cover, or just, you know, some reason why we couldn't do it. I woke up that morning and it was raining outside, so I thought, well, this one's going to get scratched again. And we got on the helicopter after getting settled and everything. And, you know, whenever I talk about the mission, I always talk about just rocking with the rotors, waiting for those 3 words: execute, 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 right?
So you wanted that to happen?
Oh, absolutely. You know, you know, look, these guys do bad things to bad people, and we want that to stop. And you know, I talk about the culture itself is just a different culture than Americans. And you know, whenever we would work, there's a story about the Border Patrol, Afghani Border Patrol. They would just start charging a toll at checkpoints because they needed money.
It's corrupt.
Yeah, you know, that's just how their brain operates. You know, it's easier for me to ask money from this person than to get a second job. You know, they don't have that built into them. So if that's how the good people, Border Patrols, that's the good people. You know, so if that's how they act, what do you think the bad people do, right? So
it's unimaginable.
Absolutely. It's just something that, you know, again, Americans don't realize the evil that these, you know, Islamic radicalists are. They just are. And so he needed to go. And so we get those words execute, and we're lifting up, and that's why I always talk about the word living. You know, right now, you and I, we're not living. We're just having a good time. We're just relaxed. You know, sunshine and butterflies outside. We got the AC on. You know, this is relaxing. You know, whenever those wheels left that ground at Jalalabad off that CH-47, I didn't know when they landed I'd be alive.
Oh, gosh. That just gives me chills.
Right? That's living.
That puts things in perspective.
That puts it, you know, that's if the next time those wheels touch the ground, I don't know if I'm going to be alive. You know, the next day, I don't know if I'm going to call my wife and say, hey, love you, good to hear your voice again. I don't know if I'm going to see my kids on Skype. There was about 35 minutes of living from when we took off to getting to the objective, and we couldn't even land on the objective because there was boulders and the terrain at the bottom of this wadi. You couldn't land these CH-47s, so we had to jump out of. You know, so imagine,
Jump out into the unknown.
Hey, bingo. And Mike Tyson so eloquently put it, everybody's got a plan till you get punched in the mouth, right? Well, we got punched right off the bat, and, you know, imagine, so it was, 15 Americans. It was a couple other ODAs. There was a lot happening here, but on that, in this chalk, we had about 15 Americans and about 60 commandos that was with us, and all of us jumping off of these, CH-47s, 10 to 15 feet, 60 pounds of kit. Well, we thought we were going to lose, 20% of the element off of a sprained knee, twisted ankle, and but we didn't. And we moved up to the bottom of the objective, to the base of the mountain, rather. And imagine yourself at the bottom of a mountain, looking up, knowing I got to get up there, and when I get there, I got to go raid a village.
Oh.
There's no stairs.
It's a long climb.
There's no escalators, right? There's no elevator or anything like that. We were climbing each other to get to different terraces. And to kind of put it into perspective, climbing up a mountain in Afghanistan, you really are just climbing up goat paths, right? And the goat would just walk to the left and the right, zigzag up until they got to the, where they were wanting to go. And that's, we would walk up to a ledge that would be about 7 feet tall.
Okay.
So you would have to climb your buddy to get up to the next ledge and then do the same thing. And
it's a workout just to get up there.
Yeah, it was a workout, exactly. And you do it with 60 pounds of kit with your gun and all the, oh yeah, you have Afghanis you're trying to take care of, make sure, that you maintain your element. Well, I get up there and I get to about 40 yards from the first building into this objective. And that's when we got opened up on. And, when I say we got opened up on with an avalanche of gunfire, that's the reality that we were in. It was an avalanche of gunfire. We had, within the first 20 minutes of our firefight getting started, CK, lead interpreter, got shot in the throat, died on impact. Dylan Barrett got shot in the hip. 20 minutes to live was the initial assessment of him. We thought he was dead. Luis Morales got shot through his leg, and he's calling me on the radio, John, come get me, brother. So that was the first 20 minutes of this firefight. And, 20 minutes, like I've probably been talking for 20 minutes, right? And so to imagine all of that happening within 20 minutes, you really get into the zone of what do I do next to make sure that we stay alive. And after Dylan and Luis were shot, we pretty much initiated Operation Human Shield, right? I asked my team sergeant, Scott, hey, where do you want us to go? And I being the guy that was closest to the village, I thought maybe if we just get into the first house, we can lock down this house. But he said, there's no way we're getting up there. I came back down from my position to where they were getting shot. And I was catching bullets for them as the medic would, keep Dylan and Luis alive. And we did a good job of that. For a couple hours, that was our job.
A couple hours?
For a couple hours,
wow.
That's what we did. And now we're about 3.5 hours into this firefight. I was moving from one position to the next, and I got hit in the right leg, fell forward, and I rolled over. I never will forget, seeing my leg just hanging by an inch of flesh, just at a 45 degree, and blood just going out everywhere. And I don't mean to be too graphic, but when I saw that, it was the most painful thing that I've ever felt in my life. And I tell you that not to make you sound like I'm a Green Beret, beat my chest, told my team sergeant I didn't have time to bleed. It hurt. It hurt bad. It hurt so bad that it was debilitating. I cried, I yelled, I tried as best that I could to manage my new normal. My new normal is I have my leg hanging and I'm bleeding to death. And
survival mode.
Yeah, and so that's when I went into, well, John, do what you can, do one thing the best you can. And the first thing I did had to stop the bleeding, right? And to stop.
Show me what you did.
Yeah, so the tourniquets that we have, you have to slide it over your leg, right? And at that time, I slid it right about mid-thigh, and I got my buddy Dave Sanders to help me pull it up here. because again, my leg was just, hanging at a 45 like that. Toe was facing this way, and it was just hanging by an inch of flesh actually right there. And so we had to maneuver that tourniquet around there, and then just start turning it, the little knot until it got tight enough. And I remember looking, blood would just squirt out, and it would just, I remember thinking
like
just
a
like the
movie,
movies.
yeah.
Spielberg got it right. I remember thinking that, that was just like the movies, and that's what I would look for, to get the tourniquet tight enough. And we tightened it up, and then I never will forget that, like, every time I would move or try to adjust myself, my leg would just flop, and it would be like it just happened again. Mm-hmm. And I knew that had to stop, right? I knew that hurt, and I had to quit that. And so whenever, the only thing that I could think about is like a splint, right? That's what you got to do, is just with a broken arm, you splint it so it can't move. So I think to myself, if you move it, it hurts, so let's move it to where it can't move. So I grabbed it basically like this, and I just pulled my leg all the way up into my groin area, and then I secured it to my thigh. And it was, it sucked, but it was something that needed to be done, and that's what I could do in order to keep it from moving and keep fighting from then on. And at that point, we had to keep fighting probably about 2 more hours into the fight after that.
Oh my.
I still knew we could get out of there. So my legs, I'm literally, kicking my own ass, right? My legs in the middle. And I knew we could get out of there until I saw my team sergeant, Scott, get shot. Scott Ford, he's the man. He's a team sergeant. He's been in the military for, 16 years, I think, at the time. And,
Wow.
been to every cool guy's school. He's the guy that you look for to get out of there. And I watch him from me to you get shot right in the chest plate, drop to his knee. And thank God the body armor worked. He got back up. He kept fighting. Within 5 minutes, his arm just got shot right here, and I watched his tricep just fillet off the back. Just, it was the most gruesome thing that I saw. And that's the point when I thought I might not get out of there. Again, from me to you, seeing his arm fillet off the back, I thought that, well, maybe we are outnumbered, to a point that we can't get over. Maybe we, are so combat ineffective that we couldn't make this. And fortunately, the higher-ups that be saw the same thing, and that's when pretty much they diverted every air asset in theater to our location, and that's when they started dropping ordnance. And when I say they drop an ordnance, there were 70 danger close air strikes on that mission, right, on that objective in that mission. And there was 2,000-pound bombs that were dropped on that thing, and danger close for a 2,000-pound drum is about 1,000 meters or a major terrain feature, so over 10 football fields, just put it that way. They were dropping about 100 yards above us, and when that would happen, when they dropped those bombs, it would just get dark because of all the debris and all the rock that they would cause. And we actually had Dylan had his intestines ruptured from a boulder falling on his stomach while we were doing that. And fortunately, that would be the only time that the enemy would stop shooting to an effect to where we could actually get off the mountain. And the way that we would get off that mountain is we would just go to a ledge and fall off the backside of that ledge, either by lowering ourselves or just letting gravity do the job. And every time they drop a bomb, we'd do that, and we'd go all the way to the base of the mountain,
And how far did you say that was?
We were probably about 300 feet, so it was about 4 ledges of about 15 to 20 feet,
And you're all in pain,
Oh, I mean,
obviously. You're
yeah.
already all beat up, so.
We're all beat up, and it's just fighting for our lives, literally for inches of terrain. And, but we still had humor. I always tell the story because, there's 2 times that on the mountain we were just laughing. And I never will forget, the first one, I always tell the thumb story where, we get issued these little morphine injectors, right? And you stick it into your body, and a needle comes out and it injects morphine. Well, I asked my medic, I'm like, hey, man, what side? Because I know I'm dumb, but I also know I'm dumb, right? So it almost makes me smart. And so I was like, hey, John, you're too dumb to get this right. Ask your doc the right way. Well, he, said purple, and he went there, and it went into my thumb. So I got morphine all into my thumb, and so I throw my morphine injectant at him, tell him I'm going to beat him with my leg, and he sucks at life and all this. And we're literally laughing on the side of the mountain, bombs everywhere, bullets everywhere, and we're just laughing because of me cussing my medic. And and which Ron's a great guy. I mean, he knew what he was doing. But there was another time where, I distinctly remember there had been a time that went by that I remember the only person keeping me alive is me. And I'm not qualified to do that, right? I got my leg hanging by an inch of flesh, and I hadn't been to Dr. Quinn Medicine Woman, school or anything like that. So I remember asking Doc, I'm like, Doc, you come check me out, man. Airways,
Make sure I'm good.
Yeah. And I never will forget his little head raising up over Dylan's body, giving me a thumbs up and saying, "You're good." Like, F you, Ron, I'm not good. I know me good, Ron. This is not me good.
Oh, my goodness.
And but obviously he knew what he was doing, because if I was good enough to yell at him and cuss him and everything, then I was not dying, right? And we finally get to the base of the mountain. And, this is about 4.5, 5 hours into a 6.5 hour gunfight, and we finally, get some type of lull in fire enough to get us out into the middle of the wadi to get a medevac bird, which is, the helicopter that comes gets us, right? Well, in order to get out there, we got to go through this river, right? So I'm on a litter at the time, which is about waist high. Well, that river was waist high. So I got drugged to this river. I never will forget thinking I'm going to die of hypothermia because of,
It was
you're
cold, too,
10,000
wasn't
feet,
it?
you're in April,
Yeah.
it's 30 degrees outside, and it sucked. But we got to the base of the middle of that wadi, and I never will forget looking up, and I'm seeing Scott reach for the bottom of that helicopter. Well, as soon as Scott's hand touches it, it flies off. We actually have audio of that aircraft where the pilot says, I'm hit, I'm turning south. He actually got shot because of all the rounds that we were taking. He flies away, and so I think, wow, here we are in the middle of this wadi getting shot at again. I'm dying of hypothermia. Help me, baby Jesus. What are you going to do?
That had to feel pretty helpless.
It did. Helpless is probably the best word that you can give it, because whenever I saw Scott's hand touch that and it just flew away, instantly the whole, well, man, we're not going to make it out of here again, crept in. And we kept fighting to the base of the mountain, right? Because you're in the middle of the wadi, which the wadi, for some reason, you go to Afghanistan, a valley is called a wadi.
Okay.
Right? So you're in the middle of this valley. And everybody's shooting at us, obviously, because the pilot got shot. And it flies away, and we have to drag me back through the water again that I was dying of hypothermia before, right? To the base of the mountain, and, at one point, that was our shelter. That's the only shelter we could get from the fire that we were receiving from, the enemy. And the next helicopter came in, and it came to the side of that the mountain. So I never will forget the sound, of the impact that helicopter was taking. That helicopter, by the way, wasn't a medevac. It was just another helicopter that was on station, loitering above with, another Green Beret medic, and our company sergeant major was there. And, they went in, got off, and we got on there. And,
Wow.
I never will forget the look of that guy's helmet, the pilot's helmet, just standing there like a rock and not going anywhere, and he's just, awesome. And we flew away, and I remember thinking that, all right, well, this is good. We're in the air, we're flying away, and then we're thinking, we hear the sirens, beep, beep, beep. We had to do a crash landing because of the impact. The damage that aircraft took getting us out of there, couldn't make it to the hospital. And I was like, great, survived a gun shot, and survived the hypothermia. Now I'm going to die in a helicopter. But we made it. We landed safely, cross-loaded into a working aircraft, and that's when we made it to the combat hospital. And imagine yourself as a medic, right? Mm-hmm. You got all these bloody soldiers coming in, and you grab the one that his leg's right in the middle of his other leg, and blood's everywhere. Well, what are you going to try to do? You're going to try to fix that leg, right? Mm-hmm. Well, I stopped breathing. And back to your word, helpless. I never felt more helpless, because when you can't breathe, what's the first thing you want to do? Mm-hmm. You want to shout, I can't breathe. Mm-hmm. Well, when obviously you can't do that. And I never felt so helpless. And I remember, grabbing the guy, pulling him to me and pointing to my mouth, and, him coming and saying, oh, okay, yeah, I got to help this guy. And so they actually gave me chest tubes where they cut between my ribs on both sides, and I never will forget throwing a guy over me and the other guy's coming to hold me down because I didn't have any anesthesia, right? And that's when I blacked out. And when I blacked out, it's when I actually died a couple times. I think it was 2 or 3 times they said that I flatlined. They had to bring me back. And I wake up in Bagram. In Bagram, I'm looking at ceiling tiles. I never will forget the look of the hospital ceiling tiles. Knowing that you're in a hospital, you smell what a hospital smells like. Mm-hmm. You're looking at that, and I'm procrastinating looking down because I knew why I was there.
You didn't want the reality.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't want to know the answer that I already knew the answer to, right? And I looked down, and I only have one leg. And that was, I cried. I never will forget crying and thinking, selfishly, I'm off a team. To heck, all the trouble that I did getting into the military, all the trouble I did getting Green Beret, all the trouble that I did getting deployed, now, I will never be able to operate like this again because of, being one-legged, and that just sunk in, and it really sucked. And that word can't, that's when I had to learn the true meaning of the word can't. I cannot walk. No matter how many push-ups I ever do again, no matter how many sit-ups I do, no matter how much effort I ever give in life, I can't walk.
Does it sting to say that?
And it used to.
Does it anymore?
It used to really sting, and now it really does. I mean, it's been 10 years for me now, so I've had a lot of getting used to it. But yeah, it's again, it sucked. I used to. Whenever I would have to go to a psychiatrist, whenever I was at Fort Bragg, I never will forget the lady telling me, well, you just got to accept what you did. And I said, lady, I accept losing my leg. I'm proud of losing my leg as a Special Forces Green Beret for the best country that's ever existed. I'm proud of that. But guess what? It sucks being one-legged. Mm-hmm. If you drop that pin on the ground, you pick it up. You drop it 1,000 times, guess how angry you're going to be to pick up a dang pin. Mm-hmm. That's where I am right now, and I was 1,000 times of tripping, 1,000 times of that, but it's been 10 years, and there's been a long story that comes with me accepting what I've done and being proud of the sacrifice that I've given for this country.
Before that and before Shock Valley, did you feel invincible? Because you're a Green Beret, you're trained, you know what you're doing, you know what to expect. Well, I guess you don't every day know what to expect, but did you feel invincible at any point?
I don't know if invincible is the right word. Mm-hmm. I felt that I could do anything I wanted. Mm-hmm. Before losing my leg, before Shock Valley, I was a Green Beret, 26-year-old man. I could do anything that I wanted. I could climb mountains, jump out of planes.
You're the best of the best.
Absolutely. I could be a ballerina if I wanted to. That if I put my mind to it, I knew that the Lord gave me the ability and the mindset and the discipline that I could learn and train myself to do anything. And so, not necessarily invincible, but I, dang sure felt capable to accomplish any mission that they gave us. Yeah.
You're prepared. You're strong mentally and physically. Were you scared? Was there ever a point?
Scared isn't necessarily the word as nervous.
Did you have fears?
We always have fear. But fear of doing your best. Mm-hmm. Fear of not doing your best, rather. Fear of going into there and knowing at the end of the day, one of your buddies lost it and it was your fault. Mm-hmm. Fear of going there and, the guy leaving the objective because you weren't watching your window or something, of that effect. We did have fear. We don't, civilians need to realize that we don't have, we being, the military, when you're in country, when you're in theater and you're operating under the mission set that we are and the op tempo that we are, op tempo being as many missions as we execute, you don't necessarily, you have time to decompress. There's definitely, times where you hang out and you do the team building time and just relaxing, but you never really have time to truly decompress, to have that philosophical question of why are we here? And, I am doing something that I could potentially die. That's just, when you're there, you know it. You're there to do your job. You're there and you could die doing it, right? Mm-hmm. And so you don't really think about that philosophical question of why are we here, or am I scared right now? You just, you're nervous because you want to do your best. You know, you're nervous because heaven forbid if something bad happened, it's because you know, were half-assing your job, and we're not going to do that. You know?
Did you ever feel survivor's remorse? Because in your truck you have the names of guys that have passed away, fallen soldiers and people that were your friends. Afterwards, did you ever think, why me? Like, why did I make it, but they didn't? They had families. They had somewhere to go home to.
Yes and no. You know, definitely it is never fun to get that call that this guy's not coming home anymore. It's that, you know, in the military, a term that I say is they teach you how to deal with death but not deal with it. Right? As a special forces operator, they teach you how to shoot, move, communicate. They teach you how to take down this target with surgical precision, right? You can do this, but, you know, and I'm not saying that needs to be a focus by any means. When you're, you know, a Spartan warrior, that's your job to go do bad things to bad people. It's not necessary to worry about, you know, the effects of that. You do wish they were still here. You do, you know, miss them. You do hate, you know, specifically with me, my survivor's remorse was anger that I can't go avenge their death. That's what I want to do. By God, I want to put my helmet and my kit on and load up as much ammo as I can and go shoot as many people as I can for that. You know, I know that doesn't sound right, good, but that's what I want to do. You know, and you can't do that. And that's whenever I get that survivor's remorse of just anger about, man, you know, he got it. There's nothing I can do about it. And you know, the best thing that I learned is a term that I have become very familiar with and almost live my life by, is if they matter that much to me, that I have that much anger inside me, that, well, I owe it to them to live well, right?
That's a good point.
You know, if they matter to me, well, then they don't have the choice. You know, Ryan Savard doesn't have the choice to live. You know, Willie Lubbers doesn't have the choice. Chris Kyle don't have the choice. All these brothers of mine that I know, they don't have the choice of how to live their life. I do. And if their life is mattering that much to me that I'm trying to be as angry as possible, I owe it to them to live well. And, you know, that's a lot easier said than done, but that's definitely a way to put things in perspective. And that's how I try to live now because of, you know, the survivor's remorse that I had.
Let's bring your wife into it for a second, because for a woman at home, when her husband is fighting overseas, she doesn't know when she'll get her next phone call or if she'll even get the phone call. Do you think that your experiences in war made her bitter towards the war?
No, I don't think she's been bitter toward the war. Let me make no mistake about it. My family is one of the most patriotic families that you'll ever find.
I can only imagine.
Yeah. You know, my 4-year-old knows the Pledge of Allegiance.
Good. That's how it should be.
Absolutely. And we love this country. We are proud of the sacrifices that we have made collectively, you know, to contribute to this country. And so we're not bitter. She wasn't bitter at you know, what we did. Now, unfortunately, you know, my kids were 2 and 3 at the time. And we would have to Google Taliban to show them, you know, they thought the Army took my leg. You know, Daddy left with the Army. Daddy came back with the Army. Daddy has one leg missing. You know, the Army are bad.
And how do you explain that to children?
To a 3-year-old. You know, how do you know, so that's a lot of growing up real quick. And so, you know, we Google, you know, we'd have to Google, you know, that and show them, hey, these are the bad guys. These are what, you know, these are the good guys. And these are the good guys that help that, you know, keep Daddy alive. And so we've been very fortunate to have great people around us, and you know, God is definitely something that is our guiding light through all of this, right? And so my wife, I call her the Green Beret of moms. Not only is it tough because you have a husband with no leg and children to raise, but nobody's saying, oh, thank you for your service.
Exactly.
You know how I always say that I never get tired of somebody saying thank you to me because my leg will never grow back. You know, it feels good to have somebody say thank you for what you've done. She never gets that.
So you just mentioned people saying thank you. And every time someone says thank you for your service, you respond with,
you're worth it.
You're worth it. Well, in a time when America is so divided as far as politics and people in general, have you ever considered, is it really worth it to die for people that are saying they don't like the war?
Never.
Yeah.
You know, fundamentally, I feel that America is the best country that's ever happened to this country in existence. And I am absolutely proud to have served that country. You know, if you don't believe me, go to a different country. Go to a different country. It doesn't matter whether, you know, whether it's Canada, Italy, or Germany, or Mexico, or where. I mean, it doesn't matter. Just go somewhere else for a little bit and see the life that they live, and then come back to this country and try to say there's something, you know, that we're bad. We are not bad. We are the best force for good in the world, and have been and always will be. We do more good than anybody in the world. We're not perfect. You know, we have idiots, but it's their right to be one. You know,
Exactly. It's your freedom that you protect.
absolutely. And so, you know, that's you know, when I got back, you know, I got a bear hug of thank yous, right? I got a bear hug of people saying thank you so much for what you've done, for no other reason. You know, they just wanted to let me know that they see my sacrifice, and, you know, that validates it. And that's why whenever I say, you know, I don't say you're welcome, I say you're worth it. You know, Americans are the best thing that's ever happened to this country in its existence, right? It's not that America's awesome, it's Americans. You know, you think Americans won, or soldiers won World War II. What about the $18.3 billion that Americans bought to fund the war? What about Rosie the Riveter? What about the, you know, the revolution of industrial revolution that we had to build tanks and planes and bombs so we could fight that? You know, Americans came together, you know, that compelling necessity of being a part of something bigger than yourself. That's what Americans used to have. That's why we have the greatest, they're called the greatest generation, you know. And so that's what I like to embody, you know. And I hate this selfie generation that we're in, right? And, you know, it's not selfless like it used to be. And I always try to tell kids when they're taking a selfie to think about something selfless. You know, this Kardashian effect that we've had about, you know, we want a bigger house, a bigger paycheck, a bigger car, a bigger vacation spot, more followers on this social media.
Participation trophies.
Yeah, exactly. You know, what about something that's bigger than you? You know, what are you doing in your life? You know, with the job that I have, you know, it's not what I do for a living, it's why I do it. Why do I get up every day? And so, you know, America is not perfect by any means, but it's still the best thing that we have, and I'm absolutely proud of it.
So with the circumstances you've been put in from the war and you're serving, you've had a lot of incredible opportunities, I think, to say the least. Like you said, the bear hunt, your wife doesn't have that opportunity and things of that nature. Actually, the president of our country said this about you: the veterans are the most amazing, the warmest, and the best people. So I'm going to introduce someone who's been through a lot. John Wayne Walding. I think a lot of you have heard of him. He's actually became a very famous person. He should be much more famous than me because he's a lot more courageous than I am. He's an amazing guy, and I heard him speak once before. I was so impressed that I asked him to come up here and say a few words. The president of our country said that about you, Donald Trump, President Donald Trump, and you've spent a considerable amount of time with their family. A while ago, you were talking about the Great America effect, how right now, you know, people are starting to get behind him because they want that back. They want the greatest generation back.
Right.
So as someone that spent time with his family, what do you wish Americans knew about them?
Well, first of all, for a little redneck from Groesbeck, Texas, to have the President of the United States introduce you, that's the most, you know, humbling and honoring thing that you could ever have. You know, they invited me to go to the inauguration whenever he was I inaugurated, and to get that invitation from the presidential office, right, that says that they want, you know, little John Wayne Walding to come in there, and it means the world to me that they care, and that's what, you know, that's what they are, just caring people. You know, I said that whenever I spoke. You know, it was the first thing I said, actually, is that I'm not here for politics. I'm here for people. I'm here for the people. I don't care about Republican or Democrat. I care about Americans, you know, and that's what they are. They're great Americans. They don't care about anything other than wanting to be in the best place in the world. You know, people forget that Donald Trump's a billionaire.
Exactly.
There is nothing he needs to do other than just live a great life, and he can afford to do it, right? He wants to fundamentally make this country great again. And you know, his son, Don Jr., said he needs this like a hole in his head. And that's the God's honest truth. But knowing the family and knowing the guy off the camera, you know why people get behind him, because he is just an honest, real person that, is genuine. And that's all you want in a president, is somebody that just genuinely believes what they do without any other, angle. Nobody's hands in his pocket, because he's not beholden to anybody.
Well, growing up, did you ever imagine, hey, I'm going to be a Green Beret? And then did you imagine, I've got to read this because you have just your experience alone could take up an entire show. But your accolades have come along with being a Green Beret, being the first amputee to be a Green Beret sniper in history. So all that, when you were sitting there in battle, did you think that it would lead to a Silver Star, a Bronze Star, a Purple Heart, a Combat Infantry Badge, Airborne Air Assault, a Special Forces tab? Listening to all that, does it seem surreal?
The only thing that I see whenever you read all that, and my biggest, award would be is a patriot. I'm not a hero. The guys that didn't make it back, they're the heroes. I am more proud of being a good father and a loving husband than having a Silver Star. I did my job and was blessed enough to have my chain of command and my guys higher than me think I should have that. I care about being the best professional soldier, so I went to become a Green Beret. That allowed me to go to airborne school and get the Special Forces tab and all the things that I've done. Reading all that just, it helps me stay focused on, being great. Don't be good, be great. And that's, whenever I became the first amputee to graduate, Special Forces sniper school, I never told myself I couldn't. If you tell yourself you can, and I believe you will. And it was funny, they never knew I was one-legged until we were changing out of our military uniform into the ghillie suit, right? And they saw that I had one leg. I'm like, what in the world?
This whole time?
Yeah, who knew, right? And I'm like, yeah, you better tighten up your shot group, buddy. You got a one-legged guy doing better than you, right? But that's what, in my mind, when you read that, I'm just a patriot, loves his country, and will do anything I can and to keep it that way, right? But my honor is, being a servant of God. My honor is being a loving husband and an involved father. That's what I love to be.
You could have easily went down the darker path, and people probably wouldn't have blamed you. They probably would have been like, that's what all of us would have done. So what kept you so optimistic? Because I know there had to be a dark time, but something in there had to just push you through so that you didn't allow yourself to become that.
Well, there's three things that help me get better in life. First is God, first and foremost. Without Him, I wouldn't be alive. There is a higher calling. Statistics didn't say that 15 Green Berets go up against 250 on the side of a mountain and win. Statistics doesn't say that a one-legged man can carry an 80-pound ruck through sniper school and graduate. So statistics doesn't say the things that we've done. So I know it galvanized my truth in God, that He is in charge, He's driving this train, and just live through Him, right? So after God, the second thing is my family. My family has been the direction that has kept me moving forward constantly. Whenever you get shot, you're like Captain Jack Sparrow, where that compass just starts spinning. You don't have that north-seeking arrow. And for me, they have helped, keep me guided and keep me focused on being a better man. My son, real quick, I quit all narcotics about 6 months post, injury. The military's got a good, and this is not derogatory, but the military has got a good, a system of, if you hurt, they will prescribe you medicine to help that. And to put things in perspective, a Percocet is 325 milligrams of acetaminophen, which is Tylenol basically, and it's 5 milligrams of Oxycontin. Well, one of about 15 other, but one thing that I was prescribed was 80 milligrams of straight Oxycontin 3 times a day. This was outside the hospital, walking around at the mall,
functioning normal,
in the restaurants, and that's made me a zombie. And you don't become a Green Beret without having pretty strong will and disciplined person, and that stuff was taking over my life. And my son was standing on the table, something like this, and he went to fall one day. I went to catch him. Oh, I didn't have a leg, right? Well, what happens? I fell. I landed on my stump, rolled over. He's crying. I'm crying. And I told myself my son will never fall again because of me, because of my injury and because of what I do. And so that's whenever I decided to get off narcotics, and if I didn't have that family to teach me that hard lesson, I'd have stayed down that rabbit hole of chasing narcotics. I'd have stayed down that rabbit hole of trying to get that high, because again, SF guys, anything worth doing is worth overdoing. So if one pill's awesome, three's got to be good. That means five's going to be awesome, right? And that's what we're going to do. And my family definitely has helped me keep that north secret arrow. And the third, is American people that's helped me stay motivated, stay optimistic. Never underestimate the magnitude of what thank you means to a veteran. If you don't believe me, ask a Vietnam guy. They not only they didn't want to go, they got drafted, so they manned up and went anyway. Did their job, they get back and get spit on, right? They get back, get called baby killer. They get back and just never got that validation of what they did was worth it. What do I get? I get bear hunts in Alaska. I get this caribou hunt that I'm going on. I get all these great things of Americans that just truly want to say thank you. And so that's whenever, you say thank you to me, I don't say you're welcome. I say you're worth it.
John Wayne continues to serve his country today off the battlefield. Upon retiring from the military, he opened Five Toes Custom, a business that is 100% veteran-owned and operated. So why is he America's finest? Because in a world that makes it so easy to give up, he chose to fight back and won. In a time when so many are choosing division, we choose unity. At America's Finest, it's not about the setbacks, but rather the comebacks. Thank you for tuning into America's Finest. I'm Alexis Bloomer, and I encourage you to be the finest America has to offer.